As STEM people, we were wired to believe that we need an undergrad, a master's, a PhD, a postdoc to be able to get a job in STEM. I don't know why, but that's how we were wired. In this episode, I talk about the truth behind what a career in STEM looks like. I summarize all past 3 episodes where I've had someone with a PhD be successful in STEM, someone without a PhD be a startup founder, and someone with an MBA become a director at one of the biggest pharma. 3 people with 3 different degrees, 3 different backgrounds, 3 different career paths, but all successful. So if anyone ever told you that there's one way to succeed in STEM, they're wrong. Welcome to an in STEM podcast. If you're new here, hi, I'm your friend in STEM, Mary. And on this podcast, we talk about everything that has to do with STEM. I bring professionals from all over the industry to talk about their careers, give career advice, and try to help you as much as I can to understand what different career paths exists in STEM. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the episode. This month, I had amazing guests who are super successful in STEM. Like the conversation with them, I'm just like in awe, and I just love having these guests on my podcast because it's so much fun just learning more about their career paths and what are the different career paths you could take because I never knew like you could be a startup founder without having a PhD. I didn't know about a DBA program, what a DBA program was. And so just learning from these guests and listening and hearing all the challenges that they had to go through to get to where they are is super inspirational. And I'm just like so happy that I've had them on my podcast. If you haven't listened to the episodes before, pause and just go because it's super insightful just to learn about what others are doing and how they've achieved what they have achieved. So, one of my guests, her name is Lauren DiNacenzo. She's the director of the DBA program at Drexel University. Another guest I had on was Chris Di Matteo. He's a startup founder. And then the third guest that I had on is Odile Jacobs, who's a director of strategy and operations at Moderna. All these 3 big names, they all started somewhere. They all had different career paths, but now they're really successful. And this is the point of this podcast because I really want to highlight these careers that no one really talks about and sort of show you that, hey, you could start one place. For example, Lauren DiNacenzo never, ever, ever thought she was going to do a PhD. She never thought. She didn't think it was an option. Yet, she did it. And now she's a successful director at Drexel University. Chris Di Matteo, startup founder. Throughout his career, he's been in the field for over 10 years. And he told me one thing in the episode is that he never thought having a PhD was necessary. Back in my day, I'm pretty new in the field, but starting in the field, all I could hear about or all anyone would say, hey, you finish your undergrad, you do your master's, you do your PhD. That's the only way to be successful in STEM. That's the only way to be someone in STEM. That's the only way where you'll get to go to high up positions. And that's the belief that I had. And that's the belief that I went through, like doing my undergrad. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Master's, okay, I'm done. I decided between my master's and before I start applying to PhD to have some industry work because I just thought, why not? Let me just jump into the industry, try to figure some things out before I jump back into a PhD. And then once I started working in industry, my eyes opened up to the fact that it really depends on the path you want to go to. And that path sometimes will not require a PhD. And so if I directly jumped into a PhD, I wouldn't have known what are the other different paths that I would have been interested in. So going into industry really opened my eyes on what I want to do next. What I want to do next does not require a PhD. So, in my point of view and how I think, I feel like I saved myself some time trying to do a PhD. It's not wrong to do a PhD, but where my goals align and where I want to be in the next 10 years, I realized that that career path that I want to take, that does not require a PhD. And what I mean is, let me be more like stop being broad and be more precise. After entering the industry world, I realized I love the science. I love the lab work. I love it so much. It brings me so much passion, so much joy. But I realized for myself and my personality and the kind of person that I am, I felt like staying in the lab for such a long time is not sustainable for me. And so after being in the lab and looking at everything, I realized like this science background, I can apply it in different avenues and different sectors of a biotech company. And I realized with the skills that I have and the skills that I want to grow, that I'm passionate about more than one thing. I am passionate about the science. I love the science, but I also realized that I'm passionate about the business side of things. That also intrigues me. That also sparks the fire in me. And so I realized that you could go down like later on, I don't know when, but I could go down the path where I could mix those two, the science side and the business side. There is a position for that for me. And so that's why I never looked back into going into a PhD. And after sitting with so many people in the position that I want to be, talking to them, seeking guidance from other people, they all told me, like, hey, you don't need a PhD to get to that position 10 years down the line. And so that's my personal story of why I wouldn't want to pursue a PhD, just because my life goals or career goals where I want to end up does not require a PhD for me. And so Chris DiMatteo talks about how throughout his career, no one really stood in his face and be like, hey, you need a PhD. No one did that. He just kept on growing, kept on working. He got a master's degree. He just kept on going to the point where he started co founding a company. So I loved him and I brought him on the podcast to highlight, like, look, he's a person. If your goal is to co found a company, you don't always have to be a spinoff from a PhD lab. You could find a technology and you could be a founder. Even if you don't want to be a founder, you want to be a COO, you want to be I don't know, a project lead, something. Sometimes you don't need a PhD, but it really, really, really depends on what your career goals are. I also brought on Lauren DiNacenzo, who talks about the importance of PhD. And the reason why I brought her on is because I don't want to seem like I'm anti PhD. I'm not. I really am not, and maybe that's it sounds like it because of what I spoke. But I really want to highlight, like, as a person, if you're listening to this, but as STEM people, we were wired that you do your undergrad, you do your master's, you do your PhD, then you get a job, then you'll be successful. That's how we were wired. It's not wrong, it's not right. I just think there are more options out there than just that traditional route of like, you need to do that. And I forgot to also include, you need to do a postdoc, another postdoc, all these things. That's how we were wired. That's what I thought I should be doing. I sometimes still think like, hey, should I do a PhD? But what made me not pursue one, and what I think if you're listening to this, what you should do is take a step back. And I think I've talked about this before, but I really want to reiterate this because we feel like we need to rush and always rush degree after degree after degree after degree because we have this mindset of, oh, like, I need to finish school so I never can go back to school because once I'm out, I'm out. But that's not true. Like, you could always go back. But I just want to mention that take a step back. Take a step back and look at where you want to be in your career. What do you want to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now? If you want to be a CSO, which is a chief scientific officer, you need a PhD. You need it. It's non-negotiable. You need it. If you want to be a PI, you need a PhD. Non-negotiable. You want to be a director of a team in a biotech company, you need a PhD. There are positions within companies. Any company requires PhD. And I'm talking about the US. Europe, maybe it's different. I get a lot of messages of people telling me, like, hey, in Europe, without a PhD, you're nothing. I am not familiar with the EU and how the EU works, but I'm just talking for the US based people who want to work in the US and live and make a living in the US. And so if these are your goals like CSO, PI, directors, there are specific positions where truly, if you really want to do that, the requirement is having a PhD. But if my goal, I'll say, for example, myself, my goal is I want to be outside of the lab and focus more on the business side of biotech. Then at this current time in my life, I want to try to gain as much as lab experience, get my hands dirty as long as I can before I do that transition because I do not require a PhD to be in the business world or to apply the business things in a company. And so that's my goal. So if your goal is similar like that, or if your goal is whatever goal you have, just focus on that goal and retrace your steps backward to know what you need to do is really important. Instead of just going, go, 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 I need another degree, I need another degree, I need another degree, I need another degree. And I said that maybe 20 times. And that's what I try to highlight. And that's why I bring people from different industries, just so I could help you sort of map out your career or understand like it's fine if you chose one thing and then ended up deciding something completely different. It is okay. It is okay. I sat with Odile Jacobs. She's now the director of strategy and operations at Moderna. She didn't know anything about STEM. She went into undergrad, she got her degree. She's like, I don't know what to do from there. Like, I really don't know what I should be doing. And she went to a career fair. And in that career fair, they told her, like, okay, you could go into manufacturing, you could do X, Y, and Z. And she thought manufacturing was really interesting. And that sort of opened the door for the manufacturing roles. And she was in that. And then after being in the manufacturing world, she's like, okay, I need to be outside of that, be more on the operational side. And she went, after a couple of years, she went and got her MBA because she felt like she required that to be able to grow in that way. And so she got her MBA. And then from there, worked again until she became the director of strategy and operations at one of the biggest pharmas in the world, Moderna. And so it just shows you like there's no right way. There's no right way. And I probably am repeating myself if you've listened to every episode that I have, but this is the point of this podcast is to show you. Look at Lauren DiNacenzo. She did her PhD. She loved the process of the PhD. She grew in ways she never knew she could grow. She learned techniques that she never knew she could learn, and it helped her. And now she's a director at Drexel University because those are the things she was looking for. So it really depends on what you want to do. So I invite you at the end of this episode, just like once I say goodbye, just sit for 5 minutes and be like, okay, I'm doing this degree or I'm working this job. What do I want to achieve? Where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in the next 10 years? Is it still in the lab? If that's the case, then you probably need a PhD. If you want to be more a project lead, it's probably not a PhD. If you want to be more on the business side, then start carving or mapping out your career based on what you want to do. Stop running just to run and take a step and reflect on what you want to do. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I try to do so much because after meeting with so many people, there's so much out there that I want to do. And that's my toxic trait, probably. That like I feel like I want to do so much at once, but I need to focus on one thing. And that's my problem. And I always need to take a step back and be like, okay, like if you want to achieve this, what should I be doing? That's the only message that I want from like to send you. To send in this episode is take a step back and see what you want. And if you don't know what you want, ask. And so I hope this podcast helps you understand what's out there, helps you know what to do and what not to do, and just shows you that there's hope. There's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's a way. And whatever you want to be or whatever you want to achieve, once you put your mind to it, you will achieve it. As I always say, all I want to do is help you guys. That's all I want. I try my best to bring that information out there. So let me know what you think of this podcast. And if there's any way I could be better or fix it or have better guests, please let me know. Put it in the comments. I would be more than happy to take criticism because it's all about being better and reflecting and just growing based on that. If you're new here or if you haven't yet, please like, comment, and subscribe. It will really help this podcast to grow so we could help as many people in STEM as we can. See you in the next episode.